We're getting ready to go live on YouTube, y'all, but we still got about 45 seconds before we begin. Just setting it up. Yep, thanks, Ms. Hargrove. We still got about 45 seconds before we begin. All right. We're about 30 seconds away, y'all. I press record in about 30 seconds prior. Are you good to get us jumped off?
Yeah, I'm good to go.
Here we go. There's record. All right. Looks like we're about 15 seconds away. All right. Let me start record. You can take us away, Ms. Pryor. Record to the cloud. All yours, Ms. Pryor.
Hey, good evening and welcome to Jean Childs Young Middle School Go Team Meeting. Pause. All right, good evening and welcome to Jean Childs Young Middle School's Go Team Meeting, where we will follow the agenda as it has been emailed to you and publicly noted. I would like to remind everyone that this is a meeting of the Go Team. Only members of the team may participate in the discussion. Any members of the public that are present here are quietly to observe. So for members of the Go Team, please identify yourself when you speak. I am pleased to call this meeting of Jean Childs Young Middle School Go Team to order at 5:31 p.m. Our first order of business is to call roll. The secretary will now take the roll.
Principal Garlington,
Here.
Roxanne Marsh, Andrea Robert, Donnie Newell,
Here.
Jeremy Carr, Eddie Stevens,
Present.
Shayla Pryor,
Present.
Jaquise Hargrove,
Present.
Kelvin Walston,
Here.
and Ayanna Miller, present. We do have quorum.
Thank you. So our first order of business is to approve the agenda. This was provided to you and copies are here, or Mr. Garlington is sharing it on his screen. Are there any changes to the agenda at this time? May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda, Mrs. Stevens.
A second?
I second.
All in favor of the agenda, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
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 All opposed, please say nay, or any abstention. All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions, please say abstain. We will now review and approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting. The minutes have been provided to you. And are there any corrections from our meeting minutes? If there are no corrections, may I have a motion to approve the previous meeting's minutes?
Make a motion that we approve the previous meeting's minutes.
A second?
I second it.
I'm sorry, who was that?
Mrs. Roberts.
Okay,
Arnold
thank
Roberts.
you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions, please say abstain. Okay, so we are now going to move on to the discussion items in our agenda, and I'm gonna go ahead. I'm sorry, no discussion items. I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the information items, and this is Mr. Garlington. Thank you.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Ms. Pryor. And please give me a thumbs up if you could actually see the screen that says Young Middle School Go Team. Okay, is that perfect? All right, awesome. So just let me preface this by saying this is a lot of information. I'm going to run through this. Most of it you've seen before, some new stuff, but this is really setting us up and queuing us up for the next meeting in which we'll actually vote on many of these items. After the meeting, at the conclusion of this meeting, I'm going to email this presentation so that you can have this because, again, we will be referring right back to this, especially for the strategic plan items as we actually take some voting on it at the next meeting. Nothing to vote on for today. It's more so just for information. So I just wanted to start off by saying that. We've already seen our agenda. This is the agenda that we are following currently, and the action items we've actually already done. These are the only action items for this particular meeting, which was the agenda and the previous minutes. So let's talk about some discussion items here. We are now in strategic plan stage right now. That's what we're talking about, and that's the season that we're in right now. And the purpose of this is to make sure that we create some alignment and reduce confusion, make sure that everything is calibrated as we talk about what our strategic plan should look like. At the end of the day, we're trying to gear up so that by January of 2026, at that Go Team meeting, that we actually approve and finalize and update everything for our 2025 to 2030 strategic plan. So that's the purpose of all of this. Just so we know, these are the big bucket items for the district as well as for the school when we look at the strategic plan. So the areas, for example, are our strength as our team, everything you see in the red on the left side and the black on the other side. Our responsibility is shared. Our system is efficient and effective. We are strengthening our instructional core. We are caring for every child. And then finally, we are sparking student curiosity. Those are the six bucket areas that the district strategic plan is based on and that our strategic plan will be based on as well. And so we know that this is all based on the mission, the vision, strategic goals, and then focus areas that then ultimately have objectives, but it's all grounded in that mission and vision. And then everything kind of follows down and follows suit based on those two areas right there. So here's this is just an overview of the entire process for the strategic planning overview. Some of these items we've already done, and I'll show you in a minute where we are in this actual process right now. But these are all of the areas and all the 5 different steps in which we are going to follow but by the time all is said and done for the strategic planning. Now, if you remember, at our last meeting, we reviewed a lot of school data. We also aligned our mission and our vision to make sure that that was still appropriate and that it still spoke to who we are. And then we confirmed our 2030 goals, again, because this is all based on the 2025 to 2030. And this is just, I won't read it all, but this is our mission and our vision. We've had this since 2022 now when the 2022-2023 Go Team approved the new mission and vision, which is this what we're looking at right here. So this is actually relatively new. And it basically speaks about being a competitive school of choice where everyone wants to come. And then for the vision, it's really about just making it where everyone wants to engage and they're wanting to be actively participating in who we are as a school. So this is on our website in the school, but this is how we're operating. This is the vision and the mission that we're operating under right now. Just as a quick refresher, these are the goals that we discussed and that we landed on at last month's Go Team meeting. And basically 4 bucket areas, y'all. Improve proficiency in math, improve proficiency in ELA, to improve our attendance rate rather, and then to reduce our suspension rate. Those are the 4 areas. So math, ELA, attendance rather, and then lower suspensions. Those are the 4 areas. And you see the percentage points right there, highlighted right there in the yellow, where we are and then where we're ultimately trying to get to. By the time all is said and done, we're looking at about a 15 to 20% increase in every single one of these categories when we look at it. Now, here's the process again, and we're pretty much at the end right here, y'all, because right now we're at stage 4, where we are identifying the 2025 to 2030 strategic objectives. That's where we are right now in this meeting. And then finally, business meeting 3, which you see on the right side, where again, we're identifying those 2025 to 2030 strategic objectives. So we're between this meeting and the next meeting, we're pretty much finishing it up and wrapping everything up. So by January, we have it all complete and ready to roll in our package. So let's talk about a couple of items here. In this plan, we're going to do this start, stop, and continue exercise, which I'll put out there to everyone now, but I really want you after we leave the meeting to take a deeper look at it, and then we'll really dig deeper into discussion and actually vote on these items for the next meeting. So on the left side, you're going to see our current strategic plan, which is our 2020 to 2025 plan, which is the one that we're currently operating on before we transition into the 2025-2030. If you remember, The bucket areas for that were, you see them on the left: fostering academic performance, building a culture of student support. It was very similar to what we're looking at now, but there were 4 different bucket area items. But now we're going to transfer those over into the new strategic plan template and the plan period. So here they are: fostering academic excellence for all, building a culture of student support, equipping and empowering leaders and staff, and then creating a system of school support. Those were the previous 4 bucket areas, but now we are transitioning into those 6 bucket areas. So just as a reminder, that's what we are operating under now before we transition. So what we need to start thinking about based on the current strategic plan before we transition, is there anything that we need to stop? Is there something that we're saying on here like, that may have been us 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, but that's really not speaking to us anymore. This is what I want you to start thinking about. Really start processing this. So again, here's the priorities, and we're focusing on the priorities right now. Using data to drive instruction, increasing academic achievement to promote growth in ELA and math, implementing IB with fidelity, increasing student attendance, implementing a whole child support system, utilizing flexible learning tools and technology to increase academic performance, building teacher capacity to support academic achievement, and then finally sustaining and enhancing family engagement that fosters this positive relationship so we can promote academic achievement. That's what we're currently operating under. So as you hear those things, and if anyone wants to interject anything, you may now, but as you're hearing those things, you need to think about, is there anything on that we see on here that I just called out aloud that we need to stop? Like, that does not speak to what we're trying to do, because this is the stop portion. So just kind of process and think about that. And again, think about, no, we need to stop. And then whatever. I'm going to pause for 10 seconds to see if there's anything that jumps out. When anyone thinks like, oh gosh, like why are we doing this? Because that's really what the question is at hand. Why are we doing this? Okay. So I'm going to keep us rolling. So as you're thinking about that, we also have a continue portion of this. The same things that I just read on this strategic plan, the strategic priorities, we need to think about, yes, that is what we need to keep doing. For example, do we need to keep using data to drive instruction and academic decisions? Do we need to implement IB with fidelity? Do we need to increase student so the same strategic priorities. Now we need to think about, do we need to continue these things? Are they things that we think are working and that are important based on who we are as a school, so much so that we need to continue? So again, here are the strategic priorities posted, the same ones I just read aloud a moment ago, same ones in those 4 bucket areas. Now you need to start considering, do we need to continue? Because whether or not we have a lot of discussion tonight about it, next month or the next GO-TEAM meeting, we're actually going to vote on this. I'm going to show you all this packaged in a minute to make it more digestible, if you will. So here it is. I didn't realize it was the next slide. Here it is in a more digestible format. These are the 8 strategic priorities that we had on the current strategic plan as we transition to the next strategic plan that we need to consider if we need to stop, continue, or maybe add something to it. So here they are listed right here. So I'm going to encourage everyone, when we get off the meeting, because it's a lot to digest right now, when we get off the meeting between now and the next meeting, and then certainly when we get in the next meeting, I'm going to show you this exact same screen again, and then we're going to need to decide, does anything need to be stopped? Because we're going to vote on it. Are we continuing with all these things, or if anything needs to be added in addition to these things? Now, here is the new template or the new format, if you will. So when we start transitioning, like you keep hearing me saying transitioning to the new format or the new plan. These are the 6 bucket areas. We're going from 4 bucket areas to now 6 bucket areas that you see right here before you. The same ones I read a little bit earlier in this meeting. And so many of these that we already had, some of those strategic priorities, they actually fit perfectly in some or all of these different categories. So to show you, so here's the plan, here's the template again, and the bottom line, the thing that's driving us on this and the things to remember, we should have at least 1, up to 2, possibly 3 objectives, because we're not calling them strategic priorities anymore. They are now going to be called objectives. We should have 1 to 2 for every one of those focus areas. They're not going to be called priority areas anymore. They're now going to be called focus areas. So As we look at this, we have the two big umbrellas, getting back to the basics, and then the community of believers. Each one of those umbrellas have 3 areas underneath it, and each one of those 3 areas will have 1 to 2 objectives under it to say what we are saying that we're going to do in order to meet this particular area. So what I've done, I've actually taken the draft, the template, and this is, I'm also going to encourage you to take a deeper look at this too. Here's the new template. There's our mission and our vision right there up top. There are 4 different goals that I told you a little bit earlier and that we talked about last meeting as well. ELA and proficiency in ELA, proficiency in math, attendance improvement, and decreasing of discipline infractions. That's the 4 goals that we have right there along the top right here. Here are the 6 different areas now in which we're going to now have as our focus areas. What I've done, I've gone ahead and I've plugged in the previous strategic priorities. I fit them right in here in one of these 6 different categories. Where you see a yellow highlight, I plug that in as an addition to whatever, for our strength is our team, because quite honestly, in those 4 different categories before, it really didn't address not comprehensively the our strength is our team or the our responsibility is shared. So I added a couple of items in there, and just let me read those out. For our strength is our team, to elevate team performance, communication, development, and cohesion in order to improve academic achievement. That's talking about the strength being in our team and what we're going to do as a team. For the shared responsibility piece, to create clearly defined roles, responsibilities, and processes for all team members. That's the first one. And then secondly, to create a transparent system to track the key performance indicators and progress towards the achievement of each indicator. So what are the roles? And then how are we tracking how everybody is doing? Those are the 2 areas that I added. So I'm going to pause again because this is when we get done in January and we have our final one, our template will look very similar to this. Maybe with some of the same stuff, maybe with some additional stuff, maybe some of these deleted, but that's going to be it for us to decide between now and January. So let me pause and see if there's any questions or comments about this document, because this will be our new living, breathing document starting in January of 2026. And you can see I've done a lot of pre-work because instead of us trying to copy and paste, and I've done a lot of pre-work to make the conversation seamless and to kind of put it in some kind of order instead of us trying to figure it out. So there is a lot of pre-work that's been done on this. All right, I'm gonna keep us rolling. I'll come back to any slide that you want me to as I'm talking. So just let me know if you want me to go back. So I say all this, thank you. I see the heart, Ms. Hargrove, thank you for that. I say all this to say, here's where we're going. Because again, this is information items right now. These will then move into action items by the time we meet again. Where we're going, at our next meeting, we're gonna vote. You see it right there in black and white. We're going to vote on the 2025-2030 strategic plan. We're going to rank our 2025 to 2030 strategic objectives, just like we did in the previous strategic plan. We're going to take them and we're going to say, we're going to rank them in the order, starting with the most important to least important. Though we are acknowledging that all of them are important, we're going to put them in priority. We're going to prioritize them. And then we're going to begin the discussion of the 2026-2027 budget, because you can't talk about a budget until you know what's important to you as a school. The strategic plan is going to drive our budget. If we're saying, for example, that increasing teacher efficacy is our number 1 priority, then our budget should reflect that, where we are showing that we have professional development or something to plan that. Or if we're showing that supporting the families and creating family engagement is our number 1 priority, we should have something in the budget saying that. So that's why we're doing all that before we start talking about the budget. So any questions before or during the time between now and the time that we meet next, simply reach out to me. You can reach out to the chair, co-chair, really any member of the GO team. You could simply just reach out so we could have, answer any questions and make sure we clarify anything for you, because that's going to be our work for the next meeting, you all. Oh, okay. So I'll pause and see if there's any questions about strategic plan, because pre-work really helps. That's our strategic plan portion for this particular meeting. And I'll give about a 5-second pause to see if there's any questions or wonders or ahas about that.
I have a question regarding
Yeah.
not that slide, but I think it was the one before it, before the last slide. No,
Tell me.
not that one. Go to the next one. No, you could go forward.
Go down, like,
Yes, right here.
okay.
Create a transparent system to track key performance indicators and progress towards the achievement. Is this something like who's going to be in charge of, I guess, creating it?
Yeah. So the plan is going to speak to. So that's a great question, Prior. The plan is just saying that this is something that we're going to be that we're holding ourselves accountable for. So we at the school, if we're saying that we're landing on this I cannot say strategic. If we're saying that this will be one of our strategic plan indicators, then we have to create what that system is going to look like. It might be that we have a Google tracker, that we have in the Google Drive, that we have something where everyone has to input that. We'll have to decide and to really roll that out. It won't be what the actual plan for doing that will never find itself in the strategic plan, because the plan itself is general, but it's saying that we've got to have something to address that.
Understood. Thank you.
Great question. Great question. Any other questions or ahas or wonders? All right. Well, our work is cut out for us the next meeting. Again, I will, of course, as I always do, I'm going to send this presentation to everybody at the conclusion of the meeting. You don't necessarily have to review all the slides, but those key ones, the key slides being this one right here, this one really being the main one. If you don't look at any other slide, look at this one right here, because we need to make sure that these indicators, which are the ones that are with the little bullet points next to it, that speaks to what we're trying to do, and that that makes sense, and that they're important to us, because then we're going to take those and then we're going to rank them too. So this is the one slide. What's the slide number 28? This is the slide. Is that right? 28? Yes. Slide 28. That's the slide that we all need to look at. All right. So now, Madam Chair, if you're okay, this is actually going to follow us right down the agenda, so I can walk us right. Perfect. I see you nodding
That
your
would
head.
be great.
So here's some more information items, y'all. This actually falls, starting with the principal's report. Let me first share the CCRPI, which is our school's report card, has officially been released to the public and the media and everybody else. So I'm going to give you a quick highlights about the CCRPI for Young Middle School it's last year's data that's populating the 2025 CCRPI. So there's 4 different bucket areas for the CCRPI, starting with content mastery. Content mastery speaks to basically how do we perform in math and ELA, like what's our overall performance in math and ELA. And again, you'll get this presentation, and where I've highlighted it right here in blue, that just kind of summarizes what this category is. Our current score is 31.2, which we're showing an increase based on per the last CCRPI, which is great. Not as much of an increase as we need, and I think this year we got to really focus on getting a higher increase. What's important here is to note that where we are, our score compared to where the school and the district is. This is the area where we have the largest gap between us. I'm sorry, not the state, the state and the district, excuse me. This is the area where we have the largest gap between us and the state. Certainly, when we increase the content mastery, y'all, all the other areas go up automatically. So that's why there's a lot of emphasis this year being placed on the content mastery at the school level to increase our overall performance and in ELA and math, which is why we're now talking proficiency and not just getting out of the beginning or developing. We are now talking proficiency and above, which improves our content mastery. The next category is progress. And this basically speaks to how much the students grow. How much did they grow, as well as how well our ELA, our ESOL students, our English learners performed on English and math. So you see we're at a 71.6. That's also where an arrow up means that's good. Wherever you see a green arrow going up, that's good. We also increased in this category. You see there's a gap between us, the state, and the district, but not nearly as much of a gap as you saw in the content mastery. We're actually closing the gap on this one in terms of where we fall in comparison to the state and the district, and it's not so far off. This is reachable, this is attainable. So we're right there on the cusp of being able to catch that, which is a good thing. Next category is readiness. Again, green arrow up, we've increased in this area compared to the last CCRPI, which is definitely what we want to see. You see us compared, we have a 64.5 compared to the district at 75.9 and the state at 83.2. Kind of similar to the last gap where we had with the previous category. So something that we need to close that gap a little bit more, but as we increase, that gap will continue to close. The one that I'm most proud of is this one right here, our closing the gaps. And this speaks to basically how did our subgroups perform? That's really what this speaks to. And how did they make improvements in achievement? We're at a 91.7, which we've obliterated this. We've beat the district and the state score in this one by, you see it compared to 81.6 and 86.3 at the district and state relatively. respectively, excuse me. So we really did great on that. And I won't talk about all these flags, but as you see this bottom right screen, this bottom right picture, wherever you see a green flag, that means good. That means we met the targets or we exceeded the targets. Where you see a green with a star, that means not only did we meet or exceed the target, but these are groups that have historically in this school not met the target. So this is now a group or subgroup that's we met it because, and this is a group that historically had not met it. So where you see red means that we did not meet it, and yellow means that we made progress but didn't quite meet it. So you see mostly green right here. And where you see mostly green, you see all green in science and social studies, because in science and social studies, we nailed it last year. We still didn't perform as high as we wanted to perform overall as far as achievement, but in terms of closing the gaps and improving, we did it across the board for all subgroups in science and social studies, which was amazing. Also, if you look down here, our Hispanic population, with the exception of math, they closed the gaps in every category as well. They ELA, science, and social studies. The only area where they did not was math, where we got a red in. But then if you look further down again, economically disadvantaged English learners, and then students, especially our students with disabilities, not only did they meet all categories for all four contents, this is an area, this is a subgroup that had historically, again, in this school, because you see a star right there, they had not met these targets before. So they met it, they basically obliterated the targets, y'all. Our students with disability, just kudos, because they're the reason that they're not single-handedly, but they're a large part of the reason that closing the gap score is a 91.7 out of a 100 possibility being the highest score. So kudos to the team. All these green flags, this is what we want to continue, and then turn some of these red flags to bare minimum of yellow, but really turn these to green. And then again, content mastery will help also address this closing the gaps. If you've mastered and you show achievement, then that means you've closed the gap and you're improving. So that's really how they all work together. So I will pause. Oh, and then I do want to share this as well. As you heard me talk about this 91.7, we've also been acknowledged by the district as the fourth highest closing the gaps year-over-year improvement in the entire district. Only three other schools were ahead of us. That was Best, Jones, and Thurl. I'm sorry, Best, Jones, Thurl, and Humphreys. Excuse me, we're actually the fifth. No, I said it right. We're the fifth though. Best, Jones, Thurl, and Peyton Forest had higher improvement than we did. But again, we're fifth overall in the entire district with the amount of improvement that we made in this particular area. So that's something to be commended on again. I will pause and see if there's any questions about CCRPI. All right. If you have any questions, just come right on back to me. I always share this with everybody. Of course, this is our current school data. We know that our projection for this year was 651. Important to know because our new budget's going to come out to tell us what our projected enrollment is going to be for next year, because that's how we're going to be funded. But that's how we were projected for last year. Our current enrollment as of yesterday was 623. And I don't think we had any new students or withdrawals today. So 623, which is 11 students higher than what we were when we met last time. So we've got 11 new students since the last time that we met. Here's the breakdown by grade level: 205 for 6th, 212 for 7th, and then 206 for 8th grade. Our enrollment in May, just to kind of give you an idea, was 624. So we are one off from where we closed the year out, which that's good. That's really good, y'all. Our average daily attendance as of yesterday was 90.9, right under 91, which we're down from 92.3 at the last meeting, but up from the 88.9 where we were last year. So we're still tracking higher than what we were last year. And then here's the breakdown by grade level, where every grade being at 90% or above. Kudos to Ms. Hargrove and the team. Ms. Pryor, who's in the den hall, who works very, very diligently with the attendance, and to the teachers on the call who are making calls to call students when they're not in school to see where they are. That's what's making a difference right here. It's picking up that phone and calling, hey, we missed you. Where are you? Is everything okay? And figuring out if there's anything that needs to be addressed or if there's any assistance that's needed. We've been able to catch a lot like that. Our suspension rate is 0.45, which is only a 0.02% higher than what it was at the last meeting. So we're being really consistent with that attendance. And it's not because we're just simply not suspending. It's because we're doing a lot of proactive measures to make sure students don't find themselves in suspension's way. What this is also telling us is that we are, 1.69 was our suspension rate last year. We are obliterating that. And we're also like the third best suspension rate of all middle schools in the entire district. I think the only ones that are performing better right now are Sutton and I think Howard. I believe it's Howard. So we're like third, and I'm sorry, middle and high schools, excuse me. We're performing better than all middle and high schools with the exception of Sutton and Howard Middle School. But otherwise, we're performing better than all. So that's really to be commended as well. So kudos to the APs on that. And again, to all the teams and the teachers because we're being proactive in everything you're doing to build relationships so that students don't find themselves in harm's way and in making bad choices and bad decisions. And again, to Big Brothers Big Sisters and to Ms. Pryor as well. So now, last couple of things I'll share with you. We did have a cluster advisory team last month. Ms. Pryor and I were both at that meeting, and they highlighted a few things. But the things I want to make sure I point out to everyone, these two big bucket items that they wanted to make sure we share with everybody: the charter system renewal, and then, of course, you heard me mention before, FY27 budget preparation. So starting with this charter system, we are a charter system, and the charter is now up for renewal. Charter system is, as a matter of fact, that's why we have Go Team meetings. The Go Team is a part of the charter requirement. So right now, we're in the process of renewing the charter as a district. Nothing for us to do as a Go Team. This is just more FYI for us. So as you see the different steps and you see the little flow chart right there, where we're first filing a letter of intent to renew. And we are going to do that as a district. So that's what's happening right now with the superintendent is going to file that. The next step is going to be that the application is going to go to once he submits it, goes directly to the GDO, the Georgia Department of Education, where they review it. They do all their little stuff with it to take a look at it to make sure it's received by the deadline, and then make sure that all the criteria is being met per the actual application. I skipped something because number 2 is actually to complete the renewal application and then to submit it, which that's common sense. But we file a letter of intent, we do the application, we submit it to the Georgia Department of Education, and then there's a series of interviews that take place with the charter system, and then that's where we land to the finish point. There's no doubt that we expect that it'll be accepted, and everything is expected to go fine, but that's the process and that's the phase that we're in right now, just more of an FYI for you. Also, budget. I just want everyone to be clear that the district, as you hear many other districts across the state right now, there's a budget shortfall or deficit, and everyone's trying to pull themselves and get their budgets balanced from the district level. As you see right here, external factors plus increased spending plus revenue constraints has led to immediate need for efficiency and sustainability. And that's the mode that the district is in right now. We are trying to make sure that we are efficient and sustainable for everything that's happening. So as a result of that, you see right here in this next slide, right with the next part of the slide, FY 2027 and beyond, all this facility master planning, that's been as a result of trying to address these areas that I just talked to you about with the budget, making sure that we're being efficient and sustainable, which again is why those master planning conversations have been happening. The master plan, just so you know, if you're not aware, last night at the board meeting, that was approved, and now we're moving forward with all those school repurposing or the rezoning. That's now been approved, so now they're going through with the next phase of that as a district. So lots of community meetings. I encourage you to be in the community meeting, see what's going on, pay attention to the website, because that's exactly what's going to be. That's what's going to happen now. School allotments. We'll see that in our budget, where the small school supplement, for example, that's no longer going to exist. That's not going to impact us because we never got that anyway. That's more so for the small schools to give them a little bit more money in the budget. And then the baseline of services review, that's what's being looked at right now as we get our budgets to see what are they going to just give every school. Like what's going to be the baseline? Counselors, for example, social worker, teachers. Like what's going to be the baseline that's going to be funded automatically, and then how do we build from that? Compensation, how that's going to be differentiated or moderated, reviewing work days even to see how that's going to possibly impact the budget so we again can be more sustainable and efficient. And then finally, a programmatic return on investment review. So that's way above my pay grade. That's going to be more so our budget folks downtown, just really looking at what is the return on investment, just really looking at that and just taking the data and seeing how that looks to see where there's some changes that need to happen. You heard me talk about the comprehensive long-range plan. Again, some meetings that have already happened, but stay tuned. I'm sure there'll be a lot more things that are going to be posted about upcoming meetings and information items that'll be rolled out to the public and for everyone to be aware of, so you can see what the next steps are going to be in this phase as we talk about APS 2040 for the facilities planning. And that's all that I've got. I'm going to turn it over to Pryor for a couple of announcements. Oh, well, let me pause.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you go back one more slide?
Right there?
Yes, the compensation one.
Yep.
Who's reviewing that? Is that also downtown?
Yeah, the compensation department,
Okay,
the budget department, they're going to review that. And
okay,
I don't know the details of what this is a slide they kind of showed us, but they really didn't give us a whole lot of detail at the last cluster advisory team meeting. But yeah, there's a department down there that they look at that. And when they do these, it's going to be basically a compensation review. Now, one thing I'll tell you, this doesn't mean that anybody's salaries, for example, are going down. Typically, whenever they do a compensation review, if anything, they stay the same or they increase. But they're looking at that and just seeing how between the different salary schedules, for example, the work days. I mean, they're looking at all that to see if it makes sense and to make sure that it's practical and again efficient and sustainable. The work days, are we going to stay at 190 work days for teachers, or 191 for teachers, and 200 for counselors, or 254 for principal? All that stuff. Because if you decrease the work days, then you decrease the amount that you're also spending on that particular position. So they're looking at all that, then to come up with a general recommendation for how that's going to possibly where there'll possibly be any modifications or where it may end up staying the same, so they're taking a look at that.
thanks for the
Yep, no doubt.
clarification.
Yep, no doubt, no problem. Any other questions about anything, charter system, CCRPI school updates, anything before I turn it back over to our chair to take us to our announcements and then down to the tail end of the meeting? All right. I'll turn it back over to you, Ms. Pryor.
Hi, everybody. So we do have some events coming up here at JCY that we would love for you all to attend. So the first one, we are going to host our first annual Parent Resource Breakfast. This is going to be used to engage our parents here, not only to learn about resources for students, but to learn about resources that our different partners can also provide to families. We have several partners showing up, including Holistic, Atlanta Gas and Light, and that is just to name a couple, but we have a lot more coming. If you could go ahead and RSVP right now, or you could go to the school website because it is listed there as well. And also check the social media outlets for that too. Please go ahead and RSVP to this breakfast because we would love to have you. We have a lot of great things in store. And we just want to let you know that we are supporting you guys. We know that times are hard. So not only academically, but we're here to support you with whatever resources that we come across. We are focused on not only the whole child, but families as well. And then our next one will be the student-led conferences. That's going to take place next Tuesday, which is December 9th. Right now, our students are in the process of taking the MAP assessment. We're going to look at that MAP data and we're going to develop a plan. So students and their parents are welcome to come. We need you guys to come so that we could go ahead and break this data down to see what we need to do to either stay on the correct track that we're on academically, or to see what we need to do moving forward to make sure we increase our scores by the next time we take the next MAP assessment. This will give the parents time to converse with teachers, learn about what's happening in the classroom, and also this will also allow us the opportunity to provide you with those resources that you can use at home. And that is going to take place next Tuesday starting at 5:30, and dinner will be provided. And as usual, we have the Gooder Grocery Store. Please go to the school website, use the link to go ahead and sign up. That is open on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And we also have our Parent Resource Center here. So if you need anything, you need access to the internet or Wi-Fi, please come to our Parent Resource Center and use what we have here for you. Thanks. And so we have reached the end of our agenda. Is there any additional business at this time? May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn the meeting, Hargrove.
Can I have a second?
I second that.
All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions, please say abstain. All right, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Great
Thank
meeting,
you.
guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you,
Thank
night.
everybody. Have a
you.
good evening. All right.
Bye,
Thank you, everyone.
everyone.
Bye.
See y'all later.